Kelly, can you come in here somewhere? Is the screen in the background going to affect your lighting or anything? We can dim that if we need to. Okay, thank you all for being here today. We called this press conference to provide an update on our operations from Saturday night, and we wanted to provide you some information on safety plans and enforcement actions for tonight. Before I get started, I'd like to recognize some of the community partners that you see standing behind me. Sheriff Kathy Witt is here with us today, UK Police Chief Joe Monroe, Division of Fire Major Mark Blankenship, Division of Community Corrections Rodney Ballard, and UK Dean of Students Victor Hazard. Most of the UK fans celebrating on Saturday night were happy, peaceful, and law-abiding. The celebrations in Lexington on South Limestone and at Woodland and Euclid were very acceptable. The only challenges we had were small challenges in that we had some traffic flow problems around those areas. And while the majority of the people celebrating on State Street were doing so in an acceptable manner, the behavior of some was dangerous, criminal, and totally unacceptable. This behavior cannot and will not be tolerated. Unfortunately, many have seen media accounts of how the behavior of a few people caused destruction and damage through acts of arson, criminal mischief, and other regrettable actions. We were planning an example of that with a video that many of you have seen, but the video player isn't working on our computer right now. So what I will say is that what you saw on that video, and it's widely available on the internet, were acts of arson first degree, which is punishable by 10 to 20 years in state prison, wanton endangerment first degree, which can be punishable by 1 to 5 years in state prison. I'd also like to remind folks who are in the celebrations that throwing objects into the crowd can result in charges of wanton endangerment or assault. All of these are very serious criminal acts. We want to send a clear and strong message that individuals who engage in this behavior will be investigated and prosecuted. If you choose to commit criminal acts, don't be surprised when we knock on your door, even days after the event, and arrest you for a criminal offense. We ask all Cat fans that are celebrating to celebrate responsibly. It's simply not worth jeopardizing your college career and having a felony arrest record that follows you for the rest of your life. Think about it. At this time, I'd like to introduce Commander Kelly Edwards to talk more about tonight.
Thank you, Chief. As we talked about last week, our mission this week is, again, very similar. It's the safety of the individuals and the protection of property, both on campus and off campus, private and public. We urge everybody to celebrate responsibly, but we will respond, as the Chief mentioned, to the few that present a risk to everyone else. Currently, we already have enforcement units in the State Street area and the areas around the bars where people are congregating as we speak. Tonight, the Division of Police will have fixed posts in locations that have traditionally been a gathering point and the events that we observed on Saturday night. Traffic will be impacted. If you do not have to go through that area, we encourage you to take a different route. We will have a fluid response, and we will shut down streets as the need presents itself. The number one goal there is to prevent cars and pedestrians from interacting so we don't have a bad situation there. We're going to be there to monitor the celebration and the crowds, and if they are doing so respectfully and in control, that's fine. We will take an observation role. If they engage in some of these dangerous activities, we'll take action as necessary. The Chief already outlined some of the things that we saw on Saturday night. Those are also the things that we'll be looking for. But people need to take responsibility for their own safety as well. If you see a situation that looks dangerous, if you see activities or behavior that is dangerous, we urge you to get out of that area. If your car is in that area, You need to get it out right now. Don't expect that when the crowd gets large that you're going to be able to maneuver through there and get yourself or your car out of that area. So we're asking people to take action, look out for your own safety, and if you see those feel like it is safe to do so. But in the days and weeks to come, we'll be following up with investigations. We have very good video, very good photos that will no doubtably lead us to make further arrests in the days to come. And to talk more about that, I'll have Commander Coleman.
Hi, we have a few pictures here that are just the tip of the iceberg. We've received a tremendous amount of video, as you know. Ms. Roberts will make some of these links available and later on. So we'll go through a few slides to show you some folks that we've identified, and we're working through the Bureau investigation to identify these people, and charges will be placed once they're identified.
Commander Coleman, we're going to change the lighting in here, so we're going to hold fast. So if we can hit those lights and give everybody a second to readjust. Photogs, do we need to turn off the backlight, or is that okay for you?
It's okay.
Okay. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
First suspect here with the circle, he was photographed on several occasions throwing bottles at officers, attempting to start disorders with other subjects in the crowd. When identified, this subject will face wanton endangerment or assault charges. The two individuals circled here were observed throwing bottles at police officers on 2 separate occasions. When identified, they'll face wanton endangerment or assault charges. Suspect circling photograph here was captured on surveillance video throwing bottles at police officers. When identified, he will face wanton endangerment or assault charges. The suspect circling the photo observed throwing bottles at police officers again. These bottles were broken in this situation, and he will face assault charges when identified. The subject in the striped shirt circled in the upper left-hand corner was seen pouring lighter fluid on a car that was overturned, using as an accelerant, and then the subject down below. They will face arson charges. Suspect with the circle there was seen with a article of clothing that was lit on fire, and then he then placed it in the vehicle as overturned that had the accelerant on. He will also face arson charges when identified. Suspect circled here was observed shooting fireworks into the crowd at Woodland and Euclid. When identified, he will face wanton endangerment charges. Suspect circled here also shooting fireworks into the crowd at Woodland and Euclid will face wanton endangerment charges when identified. Another suspect observed shooting fireworks also at Woodland and Euclid will face wanton endangerment charges when identified. Another subject shooting fireworks into the crowd at Woodland and Euclid also to face wanton endangerment charges when identified. Suspect here shooting fireworks into the crowd at Woodland and Euclid as well. Suspect circled in this photograph was observed damaging a stop sign. When identified, he will face criminal mischief charges.
Thank you.
Sherelle, are you going to send us a link to those?
So they can explain that.
If anyone knows who these individuals are, there are several ways that you can contact us. There's idthisperson.com online. They can call Crime Stoppers, or they could also call our Bureau of Investigation, 258-3700.
And Andy, to answer your question, for you guys, you can get a better look at these photos by logging on to idthisperson.com. clicking on Kentucky and then clicking on, should be a link specifically for the Lexington Division of Police, so that you guys can get a better look at these photos. The thing we want people to know is there is a $25 reward for identifying these people through that website. Major Mark Blankenship, Fire and Emergency Services, and I'll talk to you.
Our emphasis has primarily been on preventing and apprehending people that have been starting the couch and trash fires, and then as it escalated Saturday night as they got into the vehicles. There have been some rumors about people trying to take those fires even further, but we've done a good job of preventing that. Anybody caught starting a trash fire, couch fire, something like that can be charged and will be charged with disorderly conduct in violation of a local ordinance for burning regulations. If they do that, if they start a fire that they think is small like a couch and it extends into a vehicle or it extends into a structure, then they face felony arson charges. And just like the people that are suspects in the vehicle fire that you saw, as soon as we identify them, they are going to be charged with arson. So we're trying to encourage them, celebrate, but don't be setting the things on fire. When you start setting a small trash fire, couch fire, it encourages the bigger and worse behavior. Anybody with information can call the tip lines that Commander Edwards laid out, or they can call the Fire Investigations Office at 231-5672.
Major, are you guys doing anything different from Saturday?
Okay.
He's up there now.
We're gonna get through all of our speakers, and then we're gonna take questions. Sorry, Andy.
Okay.
Are you finished?
Yes, ma'am.
UK Police Chief Joe Monroe.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to that the majority of the celebrations we had the other night after Saturday night's win were peaceful and orderly. However, the behavior of some students and non-students in the State Street vicinity were totally unacceptable and will not be tolerated anymore. UK Police will be out in full force again tonight on campus, assisting Lexington Police on certain locations off campus also, to ensure that all of our Wildcat fans have a safe and enjoyable time. The university will begin taking a hard look next week at the behavior of some of these students once they're identified, and attempts to identify them are complete, that were engaged in this dangerous and unacceptable behavior that does not represent the behavior of the University of Kentucky. We'll be working in conjunction with the Lexington Police and Lexington Fire Department to review video and photographs in an attempt to identify the students that may have been responsible for any of these criminal acts. Not only will these individuals face criminal charges, but they may also face severe penalties from the university through the Student Code of Conduct judicial process. The main focus of the University of Kentucky Police is to continue to promote a safe environment for our fans to celebrate responsibly, safely, and respectfully. Although most students behaved well, the misbehavior of some has caught the attention of the national media, and does not reflect the proud history of this university. I urge our students and our non-students to remember that the eyes of the nation are upon us, and that your behavior does make a difference.
UK Dean of Students Victor Hazard.
Thank you and good afternoon. The University of Kentucky recognizes the expectation of students and citizens have to celebrate the accomplishments of our basketball team, with the majority conducting themselves in a very responsible and respectful manner. We anticipate that tonight's celebration will take place in similar fashion, with respect for persons and property. This past weekend's behavior was observed and captured that did not conform to university or community standards. As you have heard, more will be done to help ensure a safer experience for all. I remind students, in particular, that inappropriate action, this past weekend and potentially tonight, can impact an academic career and profession for years to come. Further, regarding those students found to be in violation of local, state, or federal law, reports will be reviewed by the Dean of Students Office for possible violations of the Code of Student Conduct. The Dean of Students will be working in collaboration with Lexington, Fayette County, and University of Kentucky Police to manage and address inappropriate behavior. We encourage you to be safe, to be responsible, and make good decisions as we all anticipate the celebration that we all can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. We'll now take questions, and also I'd like to note that if you picked up a press release when you first came out, you should swap it out, or when I send it out, use the one that's sent to you to replace the original one due to some errors. We'll now take questions.
Will there be more officers on the streets tonight than there were Saturday night?
I can take that one. We do have additional staffing for tonight. We're not at liberty to discuss the numbers, but suffice it to say that we do have additional numbers out.
Is there an expectation of whether UK wins or loses, how the crowd may react tonight? Say if they win, will they be more rowdy, or if they lose, what do you guys kind of expect?
Well, you know, that's hard to predict. We're all hoping for a win.
Chief, I know the last time we met regarding this issue, there was talk of surveillance cameras, and some people say, is that just to scare people? Are you going to be having other, I guess, type of tools, surveillance cameras in those areas as well, or are we just using?
I think you saw some examples of that already.
Okay, I didn't know if that was from media videos or what. Okay.
Have you yet made any arrests based on photographs or videos so far?
I'm not aware of any that we've made yet, but we expect those will be forthcoming. Right now, we're really concerned with getting through tonight and handling the activities that we have.
Chief, a very strong message today. Do you wish that this strong message had been sent before what happened Saturday night?
You know, I don't think so. I think we were adequately prepared for Saturday night. I think a few individuals, and I would emphasize that, a very few individuals caused some events to occur that we're not happy with, obviously, some criminal acts. The overwhelming majority of the students and folks that were involved in the celebration were doing so responsibly. We want folks to celebrate, but to do so responsibly. We would prefer to have the role of being an observer at the celebration as opposed to having to enforce criminal laws.
And given the bottles thrown, the vehicles overturned, some of the arson situations there, do you consider what had happened to have been a riot?
I wouldn't consider it a riot. We had some issues that concerned us and some issues that we're going to prosecute.
Maybe Victor, would you be able to talk more about the student code of conduct when you go through that, and these students who not only are facing charges through the city of Lexington, but what they could face as a student at the University of Kentucky if they are found guilty? To the extent that it is discovered that it is a student, obviously there are responsibilities that students have on campus predominantly, but there's an opportunity in the Code of Student Conduct to address off-campus behavior, and obviously the national championship and the reputation of the institution being what it is, behavior off campus will be scrutinized obviously much more severely than what we have in time past. A student who is charged with a potential violation of the code obviously will face local, state, federal law, but there are implications for the institution. Depending on the facts of the particular matter and what videos may and may not show us, we will pursue obviously those violations that may be violations of our code similarly. The scale of possibilities everything warrants from a letter of warning under the code to a period of probation, to a period of suspension, to expulsion. All of those things are, indeed, that's the breadth of the sanctions that are possible under our code. Again, depending on every case is fact specific, and to the extent we have the facts, we will move in directions that we think are appropriate relative to any student, recognizing obviously that those student records obviously are confidential matters with the institution, but we will be taking a very, very close look at what indeed our police discover and moving forward as appropriate.
Dean, as well as for Chief as well, I'm curious about, is there any behavior that might be technically an infraction that would still be acceptable in the broad picture of in a celebration?
Oh gosh, that's speculative. I think it becomes an issue in the eyes of the beholder. If a police officer is looking at the same thing that I'm looking at versus a parent, we all have different perspectives. So I think really the police have to determine what indeed is applicable to their area, and I have to determine, as after the fact with the reports that we receive, is what has been mentioned to have happened is indeed a violation of our code. Obviously, our standards are a bit different than legal standards, and so all of those will come into play, and obviously with consultation with legal counsel, obviously, as we move forward in the future. We're hoping that none of these individuals are students, but I don't know if I'm that naive, but indeed, to the extent that they are, we will not hesitate to move forward in accordance with our code of student conduct.
And Chief, is there any behavior which is considered in these kind of celebrations to be acceptable, even though it's technically against the law?
Well, obviously, you're going to, in a large celebration, you're going to have folks that are having a good time and are out drinking and so forth, and there just aren't enough police to enforce all those kinds of violations. We're going to focus our efforts on any violations that have a direct relationship to just public safety, to the safety of others, or property damage. Those are going to be the primary things that we are interested in. If any other activities start causing some of the criminal activities to occur, then we'll go in and do what we need to make things different.
And one follow-up, if I could, what did you expect on Saturday, and what do you expect tonight?
We expected a large-scale celebration Saturday evening as a result of playing Louisville, one of our largest rivals, of course, with a victory. The locations of the crowds that we had to deal with were somewhat different than history has shown us. Prior to the last NCAA championship that we won, the largest crowd was at Woodland and Euclid. We had several thousand people there. And there were sporadic crowds at other locations, but they were very small. This time we had a smaller crowd at Woodland and Euclid, had a medium-sized crowd on South Limestone, and then the crowd began to grow after the game and became a very large crowd in the State Street area. So that the dynamics have changed with social media and so forth. The ability of people to find out where the crowds are assembling and so forth have changed as well.
Did you expect fires and that kind of thing?
We had heard some rumors that there could be some fires. We had gone in prior to the event with code enforcement and looked for furniture and things that could be stacked up and could have been used for fires, and we did confiscate some of that, take some of it away. But obviously there were some couches and furniture that were brought from some of the residences out after the ball game.
Chief, what time will we see the extra officers out tonight, and then how long will they stay?
They'll be out. I don't want to get into a lot of the operational plans of what we're doing tonight, but you will see additional officers out.
For the game?
I'm not going to tell you when.
Is there any kind of a curfew, a cutoff after which you'd like the celebrations to end and everybody to go home?
As long as folks are celebrating and celebrating responsibly, as I said, we don't mind having the observer role. We realize this is a big event, and winning a national championship is something that every other school in the nation would desire to be doing tonight. So we don't want to hamper a celebration, a healthy environment where a celebration is occurring. But we're not going to let people be hurt, or we're not going to let significant property damage occur at the expense of that.
Finally, how many more arrests do you think are potential from what happened on Saturday?
I don't know. We still have a lot of video and a lot of photographs to review. I couldn't give you a number.
Does it make it more challenging for police because you have these different groups that are kind of spread out throughout the city?
Well, it is challenging because you do have to staff all of them, but the groups are smaller because they are more spread out. We just ask folks again to be responsible in the celebrations and not to resort to activities that could cause injury to folks or significant property damage.
What suggestions do you have to State Street residents who are forced to have to deal with the situation possibly this evening?
Could you repeat? I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
What suggestions do you have for State Street residents who are going to be forced to have to deal with the situation, like maybe possibly again this evening as it was on Saturday? Like any suggestions for the residents?
Well, for the residents, certainly be responsible in any get-togethers that you have or you're sponsoring, because you could be held liable for the actions of those who are on your property and who you've invited to come and be part of the celebration. But certainly to remove any vehicles, remove any items or property that's out in the public area or in the lawn that could be that something that someone would choose to try to pick up and set on fire or to damage for no reason. That's what I would offer. Any other questions?
Are there going to be more mounted police tonight?
We will have our mounted unit out tonight. Thank you.
You guys are good? All right. And you guys swap out your press releases, and I'll